Hello everyone, Dr. John Bartemus here today with exciting news for people and families and caregivers that deal with neurodegenerative disorders such as autism, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, autism, and epilepsy, just to name a few. Now, neurodegenerative diseases are diseases that mainstream medicine does not have an answer for. They have drugs for them, like in Alzheimer's they have drugs like Aricept and Exelon, but these drugs even say that they will not reverse the disease or improve symptoms. They only hope to halt the disease from progressing further. Now, that's if you are a caregiver for an Alzheimer's patient or a Parkinson's patient that takes L-Dopa and has seen some benefit but eventually progresses to where L-Dopa doesn't help anymore, or you're an MS patient that just continues to progressively get worse, or you have a child with autism that you don't have an answer for, or an epileptic child with massive seizures that you don't have an answer for except for medications, well, this video is for you. Current research by Dr. Robert Veitch out of the National Institutes of Health has found that these neurodegenerative disorders have a problem of ATP production. Now, ATP is what we use for energy in our bodies, and the neurodegeneration of these diseases is caused by the brain's inability to create enough ATP to provide energy for all of the functions in our body. So you have the cognitive decline, the memory loss, the tremors, the seizures, the inability to do simple activities of daily living like button up a shirt or tie your shoes or remember when to eat. So a lack of energy or a lack of the ability to produce ATP is a big problem. And how does this happen? Well, let's talk about Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is beginning to be known as type 3 diabetes, or diabetes of the brain. Diabetes is a case of insulin resistance where the body cannot take the sugar consumed in the diet and deliver it to the cells because the cells are insulin resistant or the body isn't producing insulin at all. So type 3 diabetes, or Alzheimer's, is diabetes of the brain where the brain is actually insulin resistant or insulin deficient. And this discovery was made by Susan De La Monte out of Brown University in 2005. So we've got almost 10 years of information on this. So what's the answer? If you have Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or MS or epilepsy or autism and you're not producing ATP, so you don't have energy to fuel the brain and the many functions of the body, what recourse do we have? Well, until recently, there was nothing but drugs, and we just had to watch these patients decline and die an early death and forget who we are on the way. And there's nothing more heart-wrenching and sad than that. But what Dr. Veitch has discovered at the National Institutes of Health is that there are certain foods that have certain fatty acids in them that in our body are metabolized into ketones. And what ketones are an alternative energy source for the brain. Whereas you need glucose for the brain and you need insulin and insulin receptors to take the glucose out of the blood and into the cell for energy, ketones go through the back door and they don't require insulin to get into the cell. So when you have ketones available, they go straight into the cell, straight into the mitochondria to produce ATP and energy and benefit the patient in question, whether it's Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, autism, etc. So what foods promote ketone production? Well, it's fats. Specifically, the best one on the planet for us is coconut oil. Coconut oil is 60% medium chain triglycerides, which means medium chain fats that are immediately absorbed and go straight as an energy source to the brain and to other cells of the body. So at your natural food store, at your local grocery store, if you are a caregiver for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, multiple sclerosis, autism, epilepsy, go immediately and buy coconut oil because this is an answer for your patient. What research is finding is that the ketones from the medium chain triglycerides from the coconut oil get into the brain, provide immediate energy, and in some patients there's immediate results. So in some patients the Alzheimer's symptoms start to reverse immediately, so the person has more mental functioning, better cognition, remembers people, has better motor skills, can button his shirt, remembers when breakfast, lunch, and dinner are, and remembers to eat, has his mood change back to the happy person that he used to be, and the personality just in general returns. Now, it's not a guarantee that it will be from the first dose, but some people experience that. Some people it takes a month or 3 months or even 9 months. So this is a therapy that you're going to have to be patient and consistent with, okay? So there's a doctor in Florida, Dr. Mary Newport, who's written a book on this, and she is a neonatologist in a hospital in Florida, and she got into this because her husband developed Alzheimer's at an early age, at 57. And so she dug in and researched, what can I do, because he was mild cognitive decline, which is mild Alzheimer's, so he didn't fit the certain drug trials that were going on, and they didn't have an answer for them. So she found on the internet, ran across Dr. Vicha's studies in ketones and started giving him the coconut oil, and for him it worked immediately, and his personality returned, his mood returned, his cognition improved, and it's now been 4 years, and he's had no progression of the Alzheimer's disease. He's actually had regression and stability in symptoms, activity of daily living, and quality of life. So this is a great option, a very inexpensive option for you if you are a caregiver of one of these patients. Another thing that you could try is a ketogenic diet. Specifically in epilepsy and people with seizures, a ketogenic diet is the gold standard diet for these patients to prevent and reverse seizures. And the way it works is a ketogenic diet focuses on 90% of their calories come from fat, and the other 10% are a mixture of protein and carbohydrate. But you want to keep the carbohydrates low because they have the problem with the glucose and insulin in the brain, and that will trigger seizures. So if they're getting 90% of their diet is fat, then they're living on ketones instead of glucose. The ketones produce the energy without the seizures. So if you have a child that is epileptic or a child with seizures, talk to your medical doctor about the ketogenic diet, or come in and see me and we can talk about it and get you going on that. Okay? You may ask, how much coconut oil should I take? What does it take to see these results? And what Dr. Newport has found is that in general you work up to 2 tablespoons of coconut oil every meal, 3 meals a day. So that's going to be 6 tablespoons of coconut oil a day. And that is necessary because you have to keep the ketone levels high throughout the day. If you only took 2 tablespoons at breakfast, by between noon and 2 o'clock, the levels in the blood would be so low that you'd actually find the symptoms of the Alzheimer's going back to as bad as they were. But if you maintain the ketone levels high in the blood all day long, every day, by taking 2 tablespoons at every meal, you get the reversal of symptoms and improvement, and continuous improvement in some cases. Now, some people will not handle 6 tablespoons right off the bat. Don't worry, the worst symptom you'll get is diarrhea. So the way to deal with that is if you get diarrhea, then taper it down a teaspoon or 2, and then ramp back up over the next week or 2 as your tolerance grows. Now the next question would be, well, if I'm eating 6 tablespoons of coconut oil a day, that's a lot of saturated fat, isn't it? Won't my cardiologist be mad at me for doing this, and won't I have a heart attack or a stroke? No. Those are valid questions operating in the current scientific and medical paradigm that you've been trained to think from. But what research shows is that saturated fat in coconut oil is actually 86% medium chain fatty acids, which aren't stored as fat. They're immediately used as energy. So 86% of the saturated fat you're getting from your coconut oil, you're burning immediately as energy to get those positive results in that disease. Other things they found by following these patients and drawing blood lipids is that actually being on this coconut oil regimen decreases total cholesterol, increases HDL, which is the good cholesterol, decreases LDL, and decreases triglycerides. So surprisingly, by ramping up the amount of calories of fat you're eating every day with coconut oil, you are decreasing your cholesterol and lipid panels and actually improving your heart health and decreasing your stroke risk. So this is excellent. Where else are medium chain triglycerides used? Well, human breast milk, 17% of the fat in human breast milk is medium chain triglycerides. So babies are using MCTs and ketones right at the start of life, and they've been putting MCTs in baby formula since the 70s. So if it's okay to give our newborns, why would it be bad to give adults? Think about that, okay? Secondly, a 10-pound baby that's breastfeeding gets about 3 grams per quart of medium chain triglycerides of breast milk that it drinks. So if we were to extrapolate that out to a 150-pound man, that would be about 47 grams of medium chain triglycerides that man would be getting if he were eating the same amount as that baby, which works out to about 5.5 tablespoons. We're recommending 6 a day. All right, autism. Autism parents have reported increased growth, decreased amount of seizures, and better behavior in their autistic children when giving them the coconut oil regimen. Children will dose differently. A child, you want to give a 1/4 teaspoon of coconut oil for every 10 pounds of body weight 2 to 3 times a day. All right? So if your child weighs 45 pounds, just for easy math, they would get 1 full teaspoon 2 to 3 times a day, and to reap those benefits. All right? If you don't have a neurodegenerative disease, you can take the coconut oil as a preventative measure, because the ketones are very efficient energy, a non-insulin dependent way, so you can keep your blood sugar low and still get the energy and brain health effects. Studies have shown that people who replace other oils like canola oil, vegetable oil, olive oil, if they replace all those other oils in their diet with coconut oil, so they're eating the coconut oil, they're cooking with the coconut oil, over a year's time, just substituting coconut oil for other cooking oils, you'll lose 10 to 12 pounds. That's awesome. So you'll lose that 10 to 12 pounds, you'll drive down your lipid panel and your blood work, and you'll become overall healthier while feeding your brain as well. So as a review, if you are a caregiver for an Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, autism, Lou Gehrig's disease, the list goes on, think about adding coconut oil to the regimen of that patient, 2 tablespoons per meal, 6 tablespoons per day. If they are very far along in late stage Alzheimer's and the other diseases, you can take it up higher. You're just going to have to test and retest and push that point to diarrhea and then scale back some. I'm Dr. John Bartemus, and I'm here to provide natural ways to improve your health and the health of those you take care of. Studies show that 40% of caregivers die from stress of taking care of the patients before the dementia patient actually dies. So if you're a caregiver for a dementia patient and a neurodegenerative patient, take the coconut oil along with them and make sure you're getting some stress relief in other forms, in forms of exercise and healthy relationships outside of that caregiving, because it's very, very important that you're here to take care of them and that you're not letting your health decline because you're so dedicated to them. I'm Dr. John Bartemus. I'm here for you. You can give me a call, check me out on my website, or call the office to schedule a visit. Have a great day.